Well, I want to look at a poem by a poet from the 19. Well, he was perhaps most famous in the 1960s, or maybe not. He was part of what they call the movement, the literary movement, with people like Kingsley Amis. This is Philip Larkin. He was he wrote a couple of early novels, and after that he concentrated on poetry and lived his life in a fairly normal way as a librarian in Hull. Um, later in life he became very popular as a poet, and maybe, as frequently happens since his death, his star is not as bright as it once was before. I personally like Philip Larkin because of his belief in strong rhyme, which I think always creates great music in a poem if it's used effectively, and you have to be a real master of words to actually limit yourself to the vocabulary you can use, which is suitable and yet rhymes as well. And the rhymes and full rhymes and end rhymes and internal rhymes of a poem is what create the music of the poem. And Larkin had a very full belief in this, and maybe I should just get on and read the poem. So it's called "Naturally the Foundation Will Bear Your Expenses." I think Larkin was conservative with a small c. I probably wouldn't have much in common with him from a political point of view, but he was also a very ironic kind of character and sly sense of humor. And you can't always take exact what he says about his poems as gospel truth. I think that I remember him saying that the speaker of this particular poem was a shit. So that kind of suggests that he is not in agreement with the speaker of his poem, and he is creating a character. The title, "Naturally the Foundation Will Bear Your Expenses." I'm not sure if I should say much about it. Perhaps I should read it and just see if everyone can guess what the poem is about. Probably just give a clue. It's somebody who travels a lot, I think, giving talks and speaking at conferences, and we'll talk about that more later. So let's just get on and read the poem right now. Naturally, the foundation will bear your expenses. Hurrying to catch my comet one dark November day, which soon would snatch me from it to the sunshine of Bombay, I pondered pages Berkeley just 3 weeks ago had heard, perceiving Chateau darkly through the mirror of the third. Crowds colourless and careworn had made my taxi late, yet not till I was airborne did I recall the date. That day when Queen and Minister and band of guards and all enact their solemn, sinister, wreath rubbish in Whitehall. It used to make me throw up, these mawkish nursery games, or when will England grow up? But I outsaw the Thames, and dwindle off down Auster to greet Professor Lal. He once met Morgan Forster, my contact and my pal. So you can see, I think, what I mean about this is the belief in very strong rhyme. There are 3 quatrains. Let's take a look. 3 quatrains for sure. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 lines in each of the quatrains. And it's like each there is a rhyming scheme of A B C D C D in each of the quatrains. And yeah, there's a very strong belief in rhyme here. And it comes across as like a tour de force. It's almost like the rhymes are coming like machine gun fire the whole time, and make the music is great, but not entirely sure. Perhaps it's not easy, perhaps, to understand exactly what he's talking about first time out. So let's just look at it in a bit more detail. Hurrying to catch my comet one dark November day, which soon would snatch me from it to the sunshine of Bombay. Well, the comet is the aeroplane he will travel in. He's traveling from London, I think, to Bombay, and so traveling from the bad weather of London one dark November day to the sunshine of Bombay. And while he was doing that, he was thinking about pages Berkeley not 3 weeks since had heard. So the talk he's going to give, the paper he's going to give in Bombay, is the same as one that he'd given at the University of Berkeley in California in the USA just 3 weeks ago. So he's a seasoned academic traveling the world, giving his talks and his papers everywhere. He's not much bothered about what's going on around him. He's just interested in his speeches and in his talks. I pondered pages Berkeley not 3 weeks since I'd heard, perceiving Chatto darkly through the mirror of the third. So while he's perusing the pages he'll give in Bombay that Berkeley heard just 3 weeks ago, he's thinking about the possibility that maybe he might get a book deal with Chatto and Windus. He used to be a famous publisher. I'm not sure if it still is. And he's thinking about that through the mirror of the third program on the BBC. So maybe he can get on the third program in the BBC, and that will help him to get a book deal with Chatto. So he's just thinking about his academic career, really, and making a success of it. And then he says, that's the end of the first stanza. The second stanza, crowds colourless and careworn had made my taxi late. So he's really just thinking about himself. He's thinking about getting off to Bombay, and he's not really bothered about the colourless and careworn people. They're just in his way. Yet not till I was airborne did I recall the date. The date was the day when Queen and Minister and band of guards and all enact their solemn, sinister wreath rubbish in Whitehall. So it's Remembrance Day, and day when people remember the dead from the world wars. So he doesn't seem a very sympathetic kind of character. He's just thinking about his papers, but at the same time, like probably a lot of people on the left, he thinks that everything to do with remembering the war in an official kind of way is somehow reactionary and a bit fascist. So perhaps he's a kind of stereotype of a certain kind of academic, and like I said earlier, we could say that Larkin was a conservative with a small c. So this would certainly not be his point of view. So yeah, we can take it as him creating a character here that he would probably strongly dislike. So this character is on the left, which Larkin wasn't, and sees things like Remembrance Day as a waste of time, which Larkin didn't, and many people on the left wouldn't either. So probably he's an academic extremist, as many academics are. He's on the kind of the extreme left, and yet it's a mere intellectual position, because it's not one that will ever be ever likely to come to reality, at least in the context of where he lives. So yeah, he's somebody who's intellectual. He's part of a small group. He's an academic. He says that he's interested in social issues, but seems to be very selfish and only really concerned about himself. This is how Larkin would see it from his point of view. I'm not saying anything about my own point of view about it. My own point of view is irrelevant, really, here. Yeah, and the final stanza. It used to make me throw up, these mawkish nursery games, so it's becoming more obvious now, and he's making the character more unpleasant, so somebody we would dislike strongly. I mean, that's what he wants to do. It used to make me throw up, these mawkish nursery games. Oh, when will England grow up? But I outsaw the Thames, so he's not interested really. He's getting out of the greyness and to the sunshine of Bombay, where he can pursue his academic dreams, continue to pursue his academic dreams. Or when will England grow up? But I outsaw the Thames, and dwindle off down Auster to greet Professor Lau. He once met Morgan Forster, my contact and my pal. So once he gets to Bombay, he's going to meet Professor Lau, who famously knew the novelist Morgan Forster, who wrote mostly about India, and this Professor Lau is the speaker's contact and his pal. So yeah, we can talk about it from the point of view of the politics of it, but it's just really a sound feast for me. I've got to admit, I just like the sound of all the rhymes coming in all the time, the music of it that kind of puts you in a daze and makes you dizzy. There are so many rhymes, and yet there's so much going on, and so much meaning there, and difficult to follow with so much music, so many rhymes, and it's a tour de force, like I say, as a poem. I think the writer is also delighting in this music, these many rhymes, while talking about actually something which is quite complex. It's light, and yet at the same time it's heavy. So that's what makes it interesting. Maybe not a lot more to say. It's mostly iambic pentameter. Not pentameter, sorry, it's mostly iambic. The structure seems to be like iambic tetrameter, 8 syllables, hurrying to catch my comet one dark November day, followed by 6 syllables, so 8-6-8-6, all in iambic. 8-6-8-6-8-6-8-6, that's the quatrain, all in iambic meter. Yeah, it's effective I think. And yet, in some ways, when you look at it very closely, it's less effective because you feel there's something arch about it. He's something false. He's like he's created a character, and yet it's not him, and he says it's somebody he would dislike. The person who's speaking is a shit, in his own words. So it's something a bit disingenuous about it. You don't quite know where the writer himself stands. Does he really think this person is a shit, or was he a bit like that himself, and he's trying to distance himself from it, or trying to deny that, trying to throw people off about that. But the actual sound of it is great. So I just finished by reading it one more time. Naturally, the foundation will bear your expenses. Hurrying to catch my comet one dark November day, which soon would snatch me from it to the sunshine of Bombay, I pondered pages Berkeley not 3 weeks ago had heard, perceiving Chatto darkly through the mirror of the third. Crowds colourless and careworn had made my taxi late, yet not till I was airborne did I recall the date, the day when Queen and Minister and band of guards and all still act their solemn, sinister, wreath rubbish in Whitehall. It used to make me throw up, these mawkish nursery games. Oh, when will England grow up? But I outsaw the Thames, and dwindle off down Auster to greet Professor Lal. He once met Morgan Forster, my contact and my pal.